Hi everyone, my name is Chloe Leo and I'm a third year psych major here at UVA. I work as one of the event coordinators for the Economics Career Office and I'll be serving as your moderator for today. Jen Jones, the ECO director, and I are so excited to be hosting today's Careers in Marketing and Market Research panel with alumni Alex Turowski and Elise Mercer, as well as Jason Kosakow, a brand insights and strategy manager at Capital One. We're so grateful to all of you for your time and service to students. It's because you are here we are able to build connections between the department, our econ majors, other majors, because we have unlimited space thanks to virtual programming and the world of work. For those who are new to ECO programming, the ECO was launched in 2013 thanks to the leadership of Professors Ken Elzinga, Charlie Holt, Ed Burton, John Pepper, and Lee Kopic. These faculty envisioned a career services office serving the department that focused on the career development of our majors, but has since expanded its reach to serve prospective majors as well. And faculty approached alumni, parents, and friends of the department, and these contributors made the ECO a reality. The 20 to 30 programs we have a year, along with our advising and other services, are a result of their vision, leadership, and generosity. And the generosity does not stop there. We are very fortunate to have invested alumni and friends of UVA that care about your success and give back to the department by participating in events like these and volunteering their time, point of view, and expertise. Lastly, before we go ahead and get started, we'd like to let everyone know about some upcoming ECO events. We are planning a series of virtual site visits to DC and NYC think tanks later this fall, so be on the lookout for those in your email. We're also hosting an alumni career coaching day featuring 11 alumni on November 13th, so check that out in Handshake. Our guests will also be holding office hours directly after this panel, so for those who are interested, we still have a few slots available, and I'll be linking the sign-up sheet at the end of our discussion. A few notes for today's panel. Please keep your video on but your mic off. During the Q&A, you can unmute yourself and ask your question directly, or you can send questions using the chat function to Jen throughout the program or during the Q&A, who will be monitoring it. In order to keep the speakers and panel in your top view, you can open the gallery view and drag the boxes around to your position of choice. You can also multi-pin our panelists and change your view options to speaker view. We'll start by having each panelist introduce themselves. I'll get us started with some questions, and then we'll open up the session to you guys for a Q&A. And the session will be recorded. So without further delay, I'd like to welcome Alex, Elize, and Jason. Alex, could you start us off by introducing yourself and giving us sort of a skim of your resume, including an overview of your time at UVA, your current role, and how you got into marketing?
Sure. And first, I'll say that Chloe nailed the last name, so I did not coach her. That was great to see. We're on a good start. I'm Alex Trofsky. I'm an econ grad from 2010, originally from Roanoke, Virginia, and then I lived in Charlottesville, Virginia for school, and then for 6 years after that, recently moved to Seattle, Washington. I say recent, but really 4 years ago, with my wife due to just some job opportunities. When I was at UVA, frankly, I didn't really know what field I was really interested in. I knew I was interested in economics, and was fortunate to find what is labeled performance marketing, and I'm happy to share more about what that is later on. But essentially, it's a quantitative field that also allows you to use creativity in aspects of understanding how to leverage data to advertise to consumers. I started out as an analyst, moved to management, and have been a director of performance marketing and specifically search marketing for about the last 6 years. That was at both the agency side and the brand side. Elize actually and I worked together at the same agency in Charlottesville. I then moved to a Seattle-based agency, as I mentioned, about 4 years ago, and then recently moved to an in-house team at Frontdoor. Frontdoor is a company that focuses on helping people remove the hassle out of home ownership. We do that through home warranties and some other services that exist. And so I run a team of about 6 people that are focused on running marketing programs on Google, Microsoft, Facebook, and some affiliate partnerships. So that's a general synopsis of who I am and where I've been.
Great, thanks so much, Alex. We'll definitely circle back to you and ask some more about that. Elise, do you want to jump in and give us your background?
Yeah, totally. Hey everyone, my name is Elise Mercer. As Alex said, he and I used to work together, but we technically go further back. We were also the same grad year at UVA, both in econ, yet we never met. So it can be a big major, but right after UVA, I went directly into that marketing agency that Alex mentioned, and was there for a good 7 years. Similar to his past, started out as an analyst, moved into management. And then from there, just by happenstance, I just happened to be paired with a lot of travel clients and found that I loved that. I really was energized about the travel industry. And when a job opportunity opened for me to move in-house, I did so and moved to a small company that was very early in its marketing stages. And I was brought in to lead up the marketing program there, and was there and loved it right up until COVID, when we basically went under because it's a travel company, and that was a real hard time during COVID, but it ended up really working out for the better, because I landed at a group called Spire Collective, which is a company that sells a lot of, they've got 2 e-commerce sites. Best way to describe it is like racks and storage for all of your sporting gear. And this is a more established company than my previous job, which is now giving me more of an opportunity to like really grow that marketing department. And I now have a team of 4. And so I'm helping lead up all the marketing efforts for both the brands that we do. But an even cooler aspect, I think, of my job now is that I'm also in charge of the branding. And so that like bleeds into a lot of creativity, and I'm literally helping them build a brand from ground up, which is super fun. So, unlike Jason and Alex, my marketing path has gone a little bit more in the creative direction, which for me has been super fun. So that's me.
Great, thanks so much. And Jason, could we get you?
Hey. Well, thanks everybody for taking the time to probably listen to me ramble for the next 90 seconds. Unlike Elize and Alex, I actually am not a UVA alum. Nobody drop off yet. I swear that my wife went to UVA. My in-laws are both UVA grads. I've eaten at Bodo's, I've had your coffee, so I drink your beer. So I definitely helped the Charlottesville economy. So you're welcome. But Jason Kosakow, I am a manager of market research at Capital One. You might be familiar with our commercials. If you think of Sam Jackson, you think about our brand, or Jen Gardner. I help drive the insights that make those commercials and those advertisements that many people can recite back to us. So what's in your wallet and things like that. I went to Winthrop University in South Carolina. I majored in political science, history, and economics. Then I got a master's in economics and applied economics from Johns Hopkins University. Yeah, and I got into marketing because essentially it was the only field hiring in the Great Recession. And I needed to work because I didn't want to live at home anymore. So I worked on the, they're called the vendor side. So the vendor side is not like the brand, like in-house brand would be Capital One. I was actually doing research for brands. Then I got hired by Capital One about 4 years ago. And what my work really does is like, how do we transition the way that people think about our company? How do we create marketing that compels people to take action and shift the perceptions of our brand? It's cool. It's like, I use a lot of quantitative skills. Just earlier, I was in a call with a bunch of data scientists trying to create like fixed effects panel models. So if you're into like modeling and econometrics, there's a ton of that within market research. If you're really like understanding the why behind things, like I do a lot of ethnography research. I sit in people's houses pre-COVID and just understand what makes them tick and just ask them really hard questions, trying to understand what makes them make decisions. So it's a really fun balance of quantitative and qualitative that my work has. And that all feeds into how do we make people choose our brand? How do people choose Capital One when they do need a credit card or a baking product? Yeah, and that's me.
Great, thank you all for those introductions. We're going to circle back to a lot of the things you said, but just to backtrack, Alex or Elise, could you guys jump in and just give us a little background of what marketing is for those who are new to the field?
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about performance marketing. I'll speak more to the quantitative piece. I think Elise, with her experience, can relate that to some of the more branding side as well. Performance marketing, the reason it's called performance marketing, like I think anybody in marketing would say that they're trying to do well in their job and drive results. So it's kind of funny that we have a field that we call performance marketing, but it's essentially geared to the fact that we have real-time data in a lot of ways. We are trying to drive to efficiency targets generally that is a cost per order or a cost per sale. And we're able to optimize our marketing programs fairly quickly to optimize to those specific targets. And sometimes you also include budgets within that. Performance marketing is a highly digital space. So it's not necessarily exclusive to it, but primarily it's in fields like that. So if you're on Google or Microsoft Bing and you search for something, you'll notice that there's advertisements. Well, there's a whole bidding auction behind those advertisements that advertisers are paying for, and they need to understand what value they're getting out of it. So they're looking to be able to understand and assess that data and then ultimately optimize behind it. For Facebook, there's an algorithm that's specific to social that we are assessing the data and optimizing based off of audiences and creative assets. So all of these different digital platforms, most recently TikTok even, have allowed us to be able to drive performance out of those marketing channels. And we have teams that are dedicated to that. It's a highly quantitative component of marketing. It does require right and left brain. It requires a lot of partnerships with other teams. As I mentioned, paid social is creative asset driven. So you're working really closely with the creative team to assess data and the quantitative aspect to understand how are you ultimately creating assets that are really tailored to specific user groups so that you can engage them more and hoping to convert them more often to the action that you want them to take with your brand. So there's a lot of different ways that it tailors into how you drive that performance, but ultimately that's how we really try to define the space, is that it's performance driven. I'll hand it to Elise to add on to that.
Great introduction, Alex. I mean, I think to say that marketing and branding don't have anything to do with data would be wrong. So a lot of what Alex is saying is very much a part of every little piece of marketing that my team oversees as well. When it comes to the more creative side of things, like producing a video, we produce a couple different styles of video, put it out there and see what drives the best results. And we look at that from a number of different directions, and using that kind of knowledge to help drive, what creative moves to make next is a crucial part of marketing. So, but I mean, when it does come to some of that more creative stuff, this job has really allowed me to play a lot more with the use of art and stuff within advertising and marketing. And that goes, from everything to creating a logo and thinking through how that is going to relate and how it is going to appear on all the different forms that it might appear. So that's a big piece of what we're actually just doing in the middle of right now. But I mean, one of the more really fascinating things that I got to do when I first started at this job was think through, all right, so we know we want to create this new brand and we have a general idea of what we want that to look like. But I remember on my first day, my boss wanted me to be able to have a logo within a month. And I said, you know what, that's too soon, because we can't just create a logo without creating the brand image and the brand identity behind what that logo is meant to stand for. And so for a couple months, I talked him into being able to push back that logo date. And we spent a good amount of time exploring a lot of different directions that this brand could go. And that considers well, what sort of tone of voice do you choose to speak in? There's a very different way that for people who know the game Cards Against Humanity, if you follow anything of them that they put out there, it has a very specific tone of voice that's very humorous, very just in your face. But that differs a lot from the way that a brand like Dove presents themselves. So, and all of that, it's all done with purpose. And it's done with purpose to make sure that you are connecting and relating to your target market. So that was a really fun thing that we did. That is more of that branding side of marketing. Anyway, there's more I could say, but I think that's probably a good, at least something that stands out for what I've gotten to do.
Yeah, That was really helpful. Thank you. Jason, could you speak a little bit to the function of market research and how it may differ from marketing?
Yeah, market research is essentially the nerds in the room. So you have like a strategy side. I see like Alex and Elise, they're really good at like, we essentially market research funnels the insights to help making decisions. So a lot of the times like the researcher will sit alongside a strategist. So if Elise is trying to create a logo, they need information on like colors, on like what it should look like, how it might perform, for example, in like maybe a social setting. So the insights that you generate from market research help drive marketing decisions. And it could be with anything. Like for Alex's world, like with the performance side, like you're trying to figure out like what keywords to maybe purchase from, or like how do we create creative that might resonate better in like in pre-testing, like that kind of pre-testing for some sort of creative. And a Facebook channel would be the market research role of it. So it's very informative. So you will be doing things that will help guide like what decisions to make, or you might do things along the lines of measurement. So like how well is our brand perceived after we do some sort of marketing activity? And that's all quantitative based and mostly in the measurement. So you can do brand surveys, or you can do social listening. There are different programs out there where they scrape very creepily like all the social media and all like the content information out there. So they might scrape it from Reddit, Facebook, Twitter, bots, like all these different sources, New York Times, that's all open source. And you'll be able to measure how well your brand performs. That's what market research does. It gives you the insights to help guide a marketing strategy and the measurement side.
So all of our students are kind of either in that process of applying to jobs or internships, or maybe still figuring out what they want to do. How did you guys know you wanted to go into marketing and market research, and what technical skills did you realize you needed to go into those fields? And anyone can jump in here.
I'll start with saying I didn't know I wanted to go into performance marketing. There are some schools actually that have dedicated programs to performance marketing and this and that's inclusive of like paid search, paid social, etc. At least when I was at UVA, there wasn't a dedicated program to that. I will say that I took a class that was economics of advertising that really I found fascinating, that I think opened my eyes to the idea of it would be an interesting field to consider. But I was really thinking about anything that related to baking, consulting. I think those are fields that everyone knows, and there's a clear path to it. But for performance marketing, it wasn't something that I was aware of. I was fortunate enough to hear about the opportunity. It was a company called RKG. I was fortunate about hearing about the opportunity from my network. So really just talking to people about what I was interested in and what are some of the things I wanted to do on my day-to-day basis that really exposed me to the field. Things that I was really attracted to was having something that was a quantitative based job. I wanted a field that I felt like I could really grow in, that I wouldn't feel like would be too boring. Performance marketing changes every day. In terms of capabilities and the feedback that you get from the market. So it had a lot of things that it resonated with me when I was in the interview process. And so I grew to love it actually once I had gotten into the door. That's when I found out that I would learn skills about databasing or query databasing. So using SQL, being able to leverage ad platforms and have most of my decisions be numbers based. And then what I loved was the feedback loop, where I could take an action and optimize a marketing program and be able to ultimately be able to see performance even the next day. And I found that really rewarding. From there, I was fortunate to find an organization that culturally really wanted their people to grow, wanted their people to continue to learn. They're okay with the fact that sometimes people make mistakes, but it's how do you respond to that? That really defines who you are as an employee and a person. And so through that, I found an interest in management within the field. The other piece of that is that it's a growing field. For some companies, the budgets in performance marketing relative to the whole marketing base can be as much as 40 to 60%, if not higher. For some smaller businesses, it's all they know. Like some businesses grow on Facebook these days. And so it's a big component, and it's exciting to be part of decision-making processes and strategy that really helps inform other business units within an organization, but also is relying on real-time responses and feedback from the market to be able to leverage. So yeah, to sum up, like I didn't even really know about it until I was here, but it's been a lot of fun.
I can answer that question. I didn't want to work in, I didn't even know what marketing was going into my job. When I was growing up, I dreamed of being a baseball player, but you have to be good at baseball to play professional baseball. And that was kind of the really big snag that I ran into. Realistically, like I didn't know what marketing was, even when I got the job working in market research as my first career outside of school. I really didn't know what it was at all, but I just kind of know how to do math and statistics and like survey research. So that helped me out a lot. And honestly, there are some people who love marketing. A colleague of mine, she wanted to get into marketing because she was watching Puff Daddy's Making the Band, and they were doing like a promo for Bally Totals Fitness, and she thought it was the coolest thing in the world. So there are people who just love marketing. And there are some people that just really love quantitative analysis, kind of just working in the field and just like doing deep kind of like understandings of how people think. And that's kind of what drew me into it and made me stay. I love trying to answer questions that have never been answered before. I think that's such a really cool experience when there's information out there that no one knows how to answer, then you go out and answer it. That's how I got into it. And Chloe, to answer a question around like some of the skills that market researchers need, survey research is huge. There's a recent election, so and they missed all the surveys were wrong, so we need a new batch of smart survey researchers out there. Probably that's a big one, like a basic understanding of statistics, economics, regression analysis, good management skills, like you manage a lot of different people, all with competing interests, so that would be helpful. But yeah, I mean, like a basic understanding statistics is probably like the minimum you need to get into market research. And then from there, you just kind of learn as you continue your professional career.
I'll chime in, and good timing because my dog's just stopped barking. I sort of knew that I wanted to go into marketing. I had done a internship back in my hometown for a really small consulting company. Basically, it's the best way to describe them. That would have been my summer after third year. And I was exposed to a lot of different things. I helped the recruitment lady out do some interviews, and I helped the accounting guy out do some, number stuff. And, I really kind of helped them out with a lot of different projects. And I found by the end of that internship that the stuff I liked the most was the marketing related things. I really liked that to me, it was fun. It was creative. It was interesting. And so that very brief introduction told me that, okay, maybe that's how I can narrow my search. So then coming into fourth year, it was easy to like sort through, I can't remember the name of it, but whatever like job search platform that UVA used at the time. It was easy to sort by marketing. So then I could like go to the career fairs and talk to all the different companies that were offering jobs in the marketing field. And I ended up meeting RKG at one of those job fairs and was immediately attracted to the balance of analytical numbers to like the creative side of writing ad copy. And because being an econ major, you think and you're good at thinking through numbers. So that was not new to me, but I liked that it was teasing enough of that creative side of my brain to keep that balance pretty interesting for me. So that's how I ended up there, and it's been a good career since.
Thank you guys. So as you know, our students are entering an unpredictable economy this summer as many seek internships, experience, and full-time work, similar to, as Jason said, with the recession when he first ended up in this job role. Could you guys talk about how the pandemic has affected your work or industry and share any recommendations you may have for students as they approach their search?
Yeah, I'll start. It's been interesting. It depends on surprise guest. It's been interesting in that the pandemic's made it really tough for a lot of industries. I would say that generally in digital marketing or performance marketing, it's slowed some hiring from what I've seen. But at the same time, there's a lot of consumer demand that's come back, and ultimately people are spending still a lot of time, if not more time, in a digital space, in a digital environment. So they're using a number of different um, um, uh, devices, whether it's mobile device, computer, or TV, and all of those are related to performance marketing through advertising, and that's where we run our ads. So there's still a demand, and it's still performing well. So I think generally performance marketing and a digitized space is still seeing some acceptance of or applications that are available or openings that are available at all ranges of the spectrum in terms of experience. And it's a field that if you find the right companies, they're constantly looking for people that are in college and they're looking to get into the job and the workforce. So I think there's opportunities that exist, and it's really understanding how do you navigate and find those types of organizations. And typically it's identifiable by going on Google and typing in digital marketing agency or performance marketing agency, and there's going to be a whole swath of openings. For them, a lot of them, it's based off of how their clients are doing. And like I said earlier, that demand is starting to come back. And so there's roles that are opening because clients have that demand to hire those companies. I think if you're looking for like an in-house program, it really is dependent on how they're doing in their industry. Us at Frontdoor, being a company that's focused on home services, people are using their appliances way more frequently. There's a lot of demand for it. That hasn't changed at all. How we serve that is different, but the pent-up demand is still there and exists. So we as a company are still continuing with our hiring process in a lot of ways. I can't say that it's the same for all industries. I know that some companies that are in the apparel business, Elise alluded to travel business, they have different components. So if you're really focused on being in a specific industry today, you might want to reconsider, do I open that up so that I can make sure that I get the experience? Your career is going to be a long time frame. You'll always have a chance to jump into new industries if you want. Or how do I really explore opportunities that maybe the time is ripe for that, and then try to build the right skill sets so that I can translate that later on for the dream job that you have.
COVID happened, and there was a big question within the marketing world, like, is it okay if we still put the same advertisements on TV, or does it come across as like very tone deaf? So the immediate response that a lot of companies had was they just pulled their advertising because they didn't have creative that they could put on air that they felt was appropriate. Then from the market research standpoint, like we did a ton of interviews through Zoom and other platforms where we just talked to everyday human beings and just try to gauge what their life was like, kind of like what the troubles they're going through, what financial hardships do they have, because at Capital One, we're a credit card company and a bank. So we're people were probably thinking more about their finances at that point, especially they're going to have a delinquency on some payments. So how do we just create essentially programs that would help our customers? Because we don't want people to go into delinquency. So there's a lot of market research and just qualitative interviews that we just did around that helped. The research helped shape like what our brand or corporate strategy was going to be when dealing with COVID as it came in. And it also helped with our marketing, like to see if we have permission to kind of maintain our status quo in our marketing. We made some creative adjustments. Like we didn't show people in advertisements that were next to each other. We kind of just cropped some people out and just made it seem like they were running on the beach alone for one of our commercials. But it was kind of short-lived. Now, if you're watching any streaming platform or TV, you just kind of see advertisements or be a business as usual. In terms of hiring right now, it depends on the industry. Like I know ESPN just laid off a bunch of people. Capital One, we haven't laid anyone off. We're actually are hiring still. And it just really depends. Some just general advice is if you're passionate about marketing or market research, agencies and research vendors are always hiring. The Martin agency in Richmond is a fantastic agency. They do award-winning creative. So if you ever seen a Geico advertisement, that comes from the Martin agency. There's a lot of other smaller agencies within Charlottesville, DC, every major city in New York. And the perk of being in an agency is you get really cool gifts and swags from the brands and different media partners. Like I have friends that got like t-shirts, iPads, and all that stuff. And you get to travel to cool places. That's a good way to get your foot in the door. And again, like from the brand side, like in-house, like Capital One, it's very dependent right now. Kind of like programs like this are good. I mean, career fairs, we're probably still going to be there, but yeah, I mean, I think all the hiring freezes, like once things get back to normal and probably this time next year, I think we'll start seeing hiring pick up again, but that's just kind of a guess.
So, I mean, as I alluded to, like COVID was the worst for me out of the three of us. And even worse, like my husband and I also, we worked there together. So we both lost our jobs, but he was more in the software development field. So it was, those jobs are just like all over the place. So for him though, I mean, he expanded his search beyond where we currently are, Charlottesville. And that was sort of the beauty of what's going on right now. Like, look at us here. We're all in different locations. And he's upstairs right now working for a company that's based in Colorado. So, you know, I think that's another thing that is an opportunity in a way for right now, is that you can expand far beyond where you maybe initially thought you were going to end up. So, I mean, for me, that actually overwhelmed the process. There are like so many companies out there that I could have started to search for, and I did, but easily overwhelmed and decided that ultimately I do want to be able to, at the end of the day, go into an office. So I did keep my search limited to the area, but I had to let the whole travel thing go. I had to say, okay, that was where my career was going in the past, but you know what? There are other things that I'm interested in too. And ended up finding something that ended up being a great fit. But you know, you just have to tap into your networks. You have to like get all of those LinkedIn and Glassdoor notifications that sort of drive you crazy. But you in signing up for all sorts of alerts like that, you start to get a good sense of what is out there. And even though I did have to open up my mind to where I might go, there were some opportunities I was like, you know what, that just doesn't look right for me. And sure, I might be semi-desperate right now because I am about to lose my job, but you do have to kind of stand up for yourself and not just like settle for something that isn't going to be ultimately something that helps you out. So I don't know, that was just like a small thing that I did notice throughout my process, is that I didn't just try to go for anything. Luckily, the company that was closing down set us up with I wouldn't say, he's not a headhunter, but like he knows how to help job placement. And so we each got to like spend some time with him, and he went through our resumes and gave us advice on interviewing and stuff like that. And I mean, having him to talk through was really helpful. And not everybody might not have that, but it doesn't have to be fully professional like that. If you can have someone, maybe it's an uncle, maybe it's like your older sister's roommate, or someone who can sort of talk you through this process and look over your resume and critique it and talk you through where you think you want to end up, then something like that can really help. It helps you not feel as lost, because it is easy to feel lost when you don't know where your future is going to end up. So having him was really tremendous. And yeah, I wish I could and there's a couple things that I meant to mention about him, but I'm blanking on them right now. I might remember later, but yeah, sorry. I can't remember the point of what I wanted to say for him, but anyway, point being, it certainly feels scary. I get it, but eventually you'll find something that works. And I love what Alex said, or maybe it was Jason. Someone said that this is an opportunity for you to just try something out, get some experience. I mean, honestly, that's the best thing that you can get as a recent grad is just some experience under your belt. It does not have to be the perfect thing, because guess what? Everybody ends up moving on after your first job. Very, very, very rarely these days do you have someone who sticks at a company for very long. And that means just that there's a plethora of opportunity for you to continue to grow. And at the time when I was considering leaving my first job, someone who I knew at the time who had worked there and then since gone elsewhere told me some advice that like you learn more from working at like a second organization than you do from like your first one, because you see how different companies operate and you see how you start to pick up some good things there, some good things there. And it ends up making you really marketable the more variety of experience you have. So don't be afraid of job hopping, I guess is my point.
Yeah, to that point, I totally agree. Especially in marketing, once you start to build up the skills, so much of it's translatable to another place, and it actually there's a lot of aspects of marketing that are problem solving. So you also get exposed to a wide plethora of problems. And I think Elize and I, coming from an agency first, like you get exposed to that because of the nature of how agencies work. But that also can happen in the in-house space where maybe you move horizontally in your career to another job with different responsibilities, or you might move to another organization and support them in trying to solve similar and very different problems. The other thing I just wanted to accentuate that Elise mentioned was like the idea of persistence in looking for a job. Because of what's happening this year, it is harder. There are some restrictions or constrictions in terms of the job market in places. And I think the big piece is like just continue to be persistent. I have my brother-in-law is a person with a tremendous resume. He took on some roles and responsibilities in his previous work and career that are just tremendous. And to deal with that kind of stress and pressure, you would think is very translatable to the field, but he still found it pretty difficult to find the right role and to also just move through the interview process with some organizations. And the whole point is that like, you can't get down about it. It's all about, there's a long process. It can be a lot of conversations. Accept it for what it is, and the right thing will materialize, and you'll enjoy that experience. I think the other piece is networking is so crucial. So when you're applying to all these companies, try to make a connection. And if there's anything that you'll notice is that Elize, Jason, and I are here to talk to you and talk with you about opportunities. People in their careers understand and empathize with the whole process of trying to get your career going at the beginning, and they love to help. So if you make that connection and you're proactive and persistent about building relationships, I think you're going to find it very rewarding, and that just helps you increase your chances.
That was some really helpful insight. So thank you guys, and congratulations on the new role, Elise. I do want to take some time to open up questions to students. So if any students do have questions, please feel free to send them to Jen or I in the chat, or to share them out loud. It looks like we did have one question come in, which was, what are skills students can be building now while they're in school, and what are some experiences they could seek out?
I can answer this, at least in the marketing research side. It never hurts to have a good understanding of basic statistics. As economics majors, you've probably taken an econometric course and intro to calc and stats 1. That will probably put you ahead of a lot of other people within the marketing or market research field, just being able to talk about like why things are significant versus non-significant when you talk about like hypothesis testing. So that's a good skill to have. Networking is something that's incredibly important. And I mean that within like a company. Capital One has 60,000 employees worldwide. I will never know what most people do, but having a good network internally, that will help you get things done and build influence and help you with your career. Especially if someone they make a connection with in your company leaves and goes to a place that you would love to work. Like they might go to Google or Twitter or a company you really think is cool, and you might be able to provide that connection to another career. That's a skill you can start building realistically any time. You can use it in your undergrad or grad programs where you just make connections, just to get to know people, have a cup of coffee with them, or share something. But just that's an important skill as well as the networking, and that'll go a really long way for you professionally.
That took a lot of my thunder. I agree. Like doing a stats program or class is very helpful. Just making sure that you have some quantitative aspect, and I think there's a lot of classes, especially in the econ program and some of the business programs, that are focused on stats, psychology too, and classes that really force you to be quantitative but very contextual too. That's what marketing really is, that we take a lot of the quantitative aspects and we have to build a context and understand how that works within the environment and how consumers are related to that. So skills and courses that really force you to apply that intently. I don't think it's required, but I will say that especially early on, because I knew, or I was interested in querying databases and being in databases, at least early in my career, I found it actually really helpful to take a computer science class, the 101 version. It just felt like it helped round out some things I was learning in my econometrics classes as well. So it just sort of reinforced some of those skill sets and the mindset that I had to bring to that type of work. And then I think Jason's point around like building relationships and how do you navigate relationships and reaching out and communication is so key. So practicing that, whether that's through direct coursework or joining clubs and activities that really force you to do that. My version of that was I was a youth soccer coach for a long time. And so I had to learn how to speak to 10-year-olds, which is not really a skill I had to apply in my work, but like I had to really think about how to connect with a different set of people. And so I took a lot out of that, and also was working in community or other work within the university that I felt ultimately, when I look back at it, really helped me strengthen communication skills that have been very helpful in my career.
I can say something. It's easy to point to hard skills like learning Python or learning SQL or stats or something like that. But, and I'm not discouraging that if that's where you want to go, for sure. But don't let focus on that overshadow the importance of soft skills like communication and especially your interview skills. A lot of you probably are about to be going into interviews and you might not have never done that before. And that is scary. But the good news is that you can practice, and as boring as that sounds, it's good too. The recruiter guy who helped me out had sent me like a list of behavioral interview questions to prep for. Behavioral questions are those that are more along the lines of like, describe a time when this, and then you as the interviewee get a chance to tell a story that talks through a situation that you were a part of, and you sort of move through, and the acronym he told us to use at the time was STAR, S being the situation. So you start by talking about the situation you were in. T being, I think it was like, what were you tasked with or something like that. And then A being, what were the actions that you took throughout that to solve whatever situation you were in. And then lastly, what were the results? What's good about that is that it gives you an opportunity to be very open about your past experiences. No interviewer is ever going to expect you to be perfect. And on the other, it's almost the exact opposite. They want to know how you have learned from a mistake or learned from a failure and moved through that to make yourself better. And that being able to give a story that tells one of those examples is an amazing opportunity for you to be able to show how you are self-aware and can grow as an individual and as a contributor. So, I mean, there's a plethora of behavioral interview questions that you can quiet, that you can, sorry, one sec, that you can search online and just practice them. And if it makes you nervous to practice with another person, to be honest, it made me, what I did to practice was I printed them out and I like physically wrote down my answers. And all that did was just helped my brain know a story that I could bring up. And then in that interview process, when they ask you a question like that, trust your gut of like what story pops into your head first. Trust that, because it means you're going to be able to talk to it the best. And just let the story flow and be okay admitting that you made a mistake or admitting that something didn't go as planned, and talk through how you rose above it. Soft skills are really a crucial quality to being a good contributor at a workplace. And they can often go overlooked in the prep stage because you feel like you want to be focused on this or that. But don't forget the soft skills.
I want to just jump into what you gave us there, Elise, with your acronym.
Mhm.
I'd like to tack on an extra R at the end for exactly what you shared, was reflection.
Mhm.
Right. So you have your result and then you can share your reflection on whatever the experience was. And that does demonstrate that you are insightful, you know yourself, and you're always looking toward improvement.
Yeah.
So thank you for walking us through that STAR technique. And I've thrown up some links there for everyone to go check out our behavioral interviewing question banks. All right. So we have some other questions that have come in. All right. So let me grab them because I have a long list here. All right. Here we go. And thank you for your answers to some of those skills questions, Jason. All right, let's see. You've all, let's do Zach's and then we'll get backwards. And if anybody wants to volunteer, just unmute yourselves and you can ask your question as well. Tell us your name and your year and major. Okay, here's a question. How prevalent are master's degrees in performance marketing? Is it typical to go back to school after working for a few years? And then what are people going back to school to study?
Master's degrees are not required. I think some people have gone through master's degree programs that have helped. It can be statistics based. There are programs that are increasingly popping up that are performance marketing focused. And so there's opportunities to do that, but I don't think it's necessarily something that you have to do to get your foot in the door. There are people that ultimately will go back to school after performance marketing. Performance marketing allows you, depending on what environment you work in, whether it's agency, in-house, et cetera, allows you to build up some skills pretty quickly. And again, it's very quantitative based. It leads to decisioning related to the specific marketing channels that you might be working in, but also you have to connect it to other teams, and there's a lot of collaboration that exists. So you get exposure to how a larger part of the business runs. So I see a lot of people go back to school when they built that skill set and be able to leverage that skill set when they do go back to school, and they might be trying to change careers. Typically, it's usually not necessary to go back to school to try to work your way up vertically in the performance marketing field. I've seen people go back to school because they want to get an MBA and maybe move into something that's more specific towards branding or program management. They want to leverage it to be able to move to a different type of organization where an MBA might be something that really sticks out on a resume, such as like an Amazon or a Microsoft. So usually going back to school typically signifies that someone's trying to move into a different field, is what I've found. I think there was a third part to that question. I forgot it.
What the degrees would be.
Okay. It's typically MBA. I've seen people go to law school. I've seen people move into some sort of like Masters of Analytics program. Performance marketing, there's analytics teams that are continually popping up in a lot of organizations where they are the hub. And maybe Jason can speak to this if market research typically lines up into that team, but analytics will be a hub for basically quantifying anything that's happening in an organization. And I've seen a lot of people go from performance marketing, which is a quantitative marketing piece, and they want to expand their career, and they typically transition into like an analytics role. So if you're really quantitative and you want to have exposure to clients and communication and learning about the market, performance marketing is a good foot in the door to that. And then either moving horizontally within an organization or going back to school to build more analytic specific skill sets to then move into a group. Usually that combination tends to be pretty beneficial for a lot of people in our field.
Okay.
I would add data science to that list too, Alex.
Data science, yeah.
That's another degree that connects if you really want to dig deeper into that analytical data side of things.
My take on this is if you want to get a PhD, I would probably start that process right after you graduate, because it's a long process. And a lot of people that work in research have PhDs, and they normally just kind of go from undergrad to their master's to their PhD program. If you're interested in probably like in a master's program, to kind of mimic a little bit what Alex was saying, a lot of people get their master's in something that they're interested in doing. In market research, there's two things people want to do. They either want to become a data scientist, they might get a master's in something that's a little bit more quantitative, like what I did around like applied economics. There's also data science masters out there. Different universities offer that. There's also MBA programs that people in marketing research go into because they want to climb the organization vertically, and that's more to get into managing large teams, eventually managing large programs, and possibly getting into the role of like a chief marketing officer or chief operations officer. And that's kind of where the MBA would come into place. But I feel like I got my master's after a few years of professional experience, and it really helps. I thought it was the right move because like I felt like after I graduated from college, like, I didn't know anything about the industry or the field or like what it was like to work in a professional setting. And just having those years of just knowing what the real world is like in like a big organization and also in some smaller companies, that helped just ground me in what I really wanted to learn. And I was just more appreciative of that. But I have a lot of friends that went into big time MBA programs. They generally have like 3 to 4 years of experience. Some have a little bit more, some have a little bit less, but I would recommend getting some experience if you're thinking about a master's before jumping right in. But everyone has to kind of do what's best for them.
Right, thank you. And it is a big commitment. Yeah, it is a big commitment in finance and, financials and also time as well. Just for our students on the line who may not know, UVA does have a master's in data science. The COM school has a 5th-year program where you could study data analytics and, in that data analytics track. And there are many schools that have those kinds of 5th-year programs. But I think a lot of our students are interested in going right to work. I had a final question for you here about going more into business problems that you faced. You have shared some of your cases with us along the way in the beginning, but I'm going to hold off on that. And for any student who is interested in hearing more about business cases that our panelists face and their work, please sign up for office hours. There are some slots that are still available. And you also can talk about your own background and what you're doing, what you're interested in, and get some advice specifically tailored to you from our guests. So that spreadsheet has been posted. We'll post it again. So what I was thinking, just for our last 2 minutes, be great to hear from you, Elise, Alex, and Jason. Can you give us some suggestions of what our students can do now or next? What you think they could, leave this panel and go do next if they're interested in marketing or market research? And that could be sign up for office hours.
Connect with us on LinkedIn.
Great.
Just honestly, like networking is the best thing you can probably do. That's realistically, like you can get so many jobs just by having a good network or just getting your foot in the door. Like sometimes getting the interview is the hardest part. Then the interview process is a lot smoother, or hopefully smoother than you would imagine. But just making good connections is like the most important thing, and not being scared to cold email. I don't know if it's the right phrasing, but just like sending like a DM to someone on LinkedIn, be like, I'm interested in what you do. Do you have 20, 30 minutes just to chat about it? And it could lead to an interview. They can also give you a good person to connect to, but just always keeping like your door open to just talking to new people.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I would second that. And I'll say again, being persistent, because you might reach out to 10 people and they won't get back to you. It doesn't mean that it's a bad tactic or anything. Like, you'll find someone, and to Jason's points, like building that network can really help out. I know I've talked to a couple of UVA students lately that through conversation, I've been able to just connect them with people that are better aligned to the career that they want. Maybe you don't want to be a director of performance marketing, that's fine. But if you're connecting with someone that can guide you along, they'll be able to get you to talk to someone and have a conversation with someone that is more in tune with the career field that really interests you. And the last thing I'll say is that, maybe that reinforces this previous statement, because marketing is like an ocean. It's like there's just so many different types of marketing roles. And I think we all found a niche of marketing that we really enjoy and leans into the skills that we want to bring to our everyday work. To navigate that, you need to make sure that you're connecting with people, doing a lot of research, learning what performance marketing is, learning what market research entails, what do companies do with those types of roles. And hopefully this was a launching pad to that, but there's so much to know and learn that leaning on people and leaning on research can really help you just get a guidance on maybe some opportunities that you just weren't really aware of before, or might guide you into finding out who you need to try to reach out to learn more.
I'll chime in with one last thing that does relate. So, I mean, you've heard from the others that networking is huge, and it is. I would say, though, that when you do start to put together your resume for a job that interests you, don't be afraid to write that resume for the job. I think a lot of college grads think that they need to have their one resume and that is it, and then throw it out the window to 100 different places. But if you find something that really interests you and you're like, I really want that job, or I really want to interview there, then tailor your resume to fit that. Look at their job description. What are they looking for? And tell little stories in your resume bullets by saying, well, this project related to that, and call things out specifically within your resume and or a cover letter. They might not ask for a cover letter, but if you've got a good story to tell that fits within that format, by all means. But I did that for the job I landed here. I don't think they necessarily needed a cover letter, but I had a really cool story that tied in, and I put it all together, and it went along right with my resume that the recruiter and I had worked to tailor to that job. And it catches, I mean, I've seen so many resumes, and ones that are more tailored, they do catch your eye. So that's one thing I'll say.
Great. Well, thank you so much, both to all of our students for joining us on this Friday, and to our guests for being here today and sharing their knowledge and experiences. It's really been a pleasure, and we've all learned a lot. Alex, Elise, and Jason, as we mentioned, are holding office hours after this panel from 1 to 2 p.m. and we do have some slots available. So I highly encourage all of our students who are interested in speaking more about their own experiences or hearing more about our guest experiences to sign up for those. And yeah, that's all that we have for today. So thank you guys so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, Chloe.